A man eats the king's food and waits to see if he dies. Another climbs into a pit filled with human waste in the middle of the night. Another is paid to eat bread over a corpse because people believe he can absorb the dead person's sins. These were not punishments. These were real jobs in the Middle Ages. When most people think about medieval work, they imagine blacksmiths, merchants, farmers, or knights. But beyond the castles, churches, and battlefields existed professions so bizarre that they sound completely invented today. Some were lethal, some were revolting, and some were so unsettling that most people wanted nothing to do with them. One of the most hazardous jobs belonged to the food taster. Kings lived surrounded by enemies. Rival nobles, foreign agents, ambitious relatives, and political conspirators all had reasons to remove a ruler from power. Poison became one of the most feared weapons of the medieval world. Unlike an assassin with a dagger, poison could strike without warning and often left little evidence behind. That is where the food taster came in. Before the king touched his meal, a trusted servant could be required to sample every dish and every drink. Wine, meat, bread, fruit, desserts, anything could be contaminated. The taster's job was simple. If poison was present, he would discover it first. Most days ended normally, but that was not the point. The entire purpose of the profession was to die before the king if necessary. In some royal courts, fear of poisoning became so intense that rulers developed elaborate routines around meals. Ingredients could be inspected, kitchens closely monitored, and servants watched carefully. Even then, suspicion remained. The food taster became a symbol of how dangerous court politics could be. Sometimes the greatest threat to a king was not an invading army, but the people sitting at his own table. And while that sounds terrifying, at least food tasters worked in royal courts. Others spent their nights somewhere far worse. The gong farmer had one of the most disgusting jobs in medieval England. His responsibility was to empty cesspits and privies filled with human waste. Because the smell was unbearable and the work was considered shameful, it was usually performed after dark. Workers descended into pits, filled buckets by hand, and transported the contents outside city walls. Surprisingly, the profession paid relatively well. The reason was simple. Almost nobody wanted the job. But the greatest danger was not the smell. Over time, toxic gases accumulated inside these pits. A worker could lose consciousness without warning. Some never climbed back out. For all its filth, however, the gong farmer's work served an important purpose. Without it, medieval towns would have become even more unsanitary than they already were. Entire communities depended on people willing to perform a task that almost everyone else refused to do. Not every unpleasant profession involved waste. Some involved blood. Leech collectors spent their days gathering thousands of blood-sucking leeches from ponds, marshes, and rivers. Medieval medicine relied heavily on bloodletting. Doctors believed many illnesses were caused by imbalances inside the body, and removing blood was thought to restore health. As a result, leeches became incredibly valuable. Collectors often stood in cold water for hours, allowing the creatures to attach themselves to their own legs before removing them and storing them for sale. It was slow, uncomfortable work, but demand remained high for centuries. The strange part is that many patients actually trusted these treatments. From headaches to fevers, leeches were prescribed for an astonishing range of conditions. Today, we know many of these treatments were ineffective, but at the time, they were considered legitimate medicine. While some jobs tried to heal the body, others dealt with punishment. Few people occupied a more unsettling position in medieval society than the executioner. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone feared him. Yet many people avoided him outside his official duties. Executioners carried out punishments ordered by courts and rulers. Their work required skill. Contrary to popular belief, a clean execution was not always easy. A poorly delivered strike could turn an execution into a horrifying spectacle witnessed by hundreds of people. Despite performing a necessary role, executioners often lived on the edges of society. Many towns viewed them with suspicion. Some were forbidden from joining certain professions or social groups. People needed them, but few wanted to be near them. And if that sounds unsettling, the next profession was even more disturbing. In parts of Britain and Wales, a figure known as the Sin Eater appeared at funerals. According to local beliefs, a dead person's sins could be transferred away from the body through a ritual meal. The Sin Eater would be given bread and drink. These items were placed near the corpse before being consumed. Symbolically, the sins of the deceased were believed to pass into the person eating the meal. Whether anyone truly believed this worked is difficult to know. What is clear is that sin eaters were often feared and isolated. People viewed them as individuals carrying the spiritual burdens of countless strangers. The more funerals they attended, the more they were believed to carry the accumulated sins of others. Imagine spending your life attending funerals while your neighbors whispered that you carried the moral weight of the dead. It was a profession unlike anything that exists today. But while sin eaters attempted to save souls, others desperately tried to save bodies, usually with limited success. Plague doctors became famous during outbreaks of disease across Europe. Their iconic beaked masks remain one of the most recognizable images of the medieval world. The beak was packed with herbs, flowers, and aromatic substances. Many physicians believed disease spread through poisonous air known as miasma. The pleasant smells were supposed to protect the wearer. Unfortunately, disease did not work that way. Armed with canes and primitive medical knowledge, plague doctors visited infected communities where many others refused to go. They recorded deaths, examined patients, and prescribed treatments that ranged from ineffective to completely useless. Even so, they represented one of the few sources of medical help available during terrifying outbreaks. Another profession that became increasingly important in medieval towns was the rat catcher. Food supplies were precious, and rats could destroy large quantities of grain in a short period of time. They contaminated storage areas, damaged property, and created constant anxiety for city authorities. Rat catchers used traps, dogs, and a variety of methods to control infestations. It was dirty work, but without them, entire communities could suffer shortages. In crowded medieval towns, controlling pests was not just a matter of comfort, it was a matter of survival. Then there was the bell ringer. Today, church bells might seem ordinary, but in the Middle Ages, they served as one of the fastest ways to communicate with an entire town. Different bell patterns could signal death, fire, invasion, emergencies, religious ceremonies, or important announcements. In many communities, hearing the wrong bell at the wrong time meant something terrible had happened. Long before newspapers, telephones, or radio, a bell could instantly mobilize hundreds of people. The Groom of the Stool. The title sounds ridiculous today. His responsibility was to assist the king with personal hygiene and bathroom routines. At first glance, it appears to be one of the least desirable jobs imaginable. But the position carried extraordinary influence. The Groom of the Stool spent more private time with the king than almost anyone else. He had direct access to the ruler during moments when ministers, nobles, and advisors were absent. As a result, many men who held the position became trusted political figures. Some gained significant power simply because they had regular access to the monarch. A job connected to the royal toilet became one of the most influential positions in the kingdom. History is full of surprises like that. Most medieval workers never became famous. Their names disappeared centuries ago. But hidden behind the stories of kings, wars, and castles were people performing jobs that ranged from dangerous to revolting to completely unbelievable. One man risked poison before a king could eat. Another climbed into pits filled with waste. Another collected leeches from freezing water. Another carried out executions. Another consumed food beside a corpse to absorb its sins. Another controlled rat infestations. Another warned entire towns with a bell. And another became powerful by helping a king use the bathroom. History remembers the rulers, but some of its strangest stories belong to the people who worked for them.